The moment my girlfriend turned and walked out of the shop, I thought that was the end of it. End of the argument, end of the afternoon, maybe the beginning of the end of us. The bell over the door rang once, sharp and final. Cold air followed her out. I stood there with my hands in my jacket pockets, staring at the scuffed concrete floor like it might explain what just happened. "Hey," someone said behind me. Not loud, not urgent, just enough to stop me from leaving too. I turned. Her sister hadn't moved from where she was leaning against the counter. Mid-40s, maybe older. Calm in a way that didn't try to impress anyone. She wore a dark cardigan over a blouse that looked ironed but tired, like it had been folded and unfolded too many times. Her hair was pulled back loosely, a few strands already slipping free near her temple. She met my eyes without flinching. "You don't have to go just yet," she said. The place was her family's repair shop, auto and electrical, a narrow building that smelled like oil, hot dust, and old coffee. I'd been there a dozen times before, usually waiting in the corner while my girlfriend argued prices with customers or scrolled through her phone. I never paid much attention to her sister. She was always there, but somehow not part of the noise. I shrugged, suddenly aware of how young I probably looked standing there. "I think I should." She didn't argue. She just reached for a paper cup on the counter and pushed it toward me. "Coffee's cold," she said. "But it's still coffee." That did it. The smallness of it. The fact that she didn't ask me what happened, didn't take sides, didn't try to fix anything. I took the cup. Our fingers brushed for half a second. Not dramatic. Barely there. Still, it felt like something had been switched on. I leaned against the counter and took a sip. She was right. Cold. Bitter. I made a face without meaning to. That made her smile. Not wide. Just one corner of her mouth lifting, like she'd caught something she hadn't been looking for. "She does that when she's overwhelmed," she said, nodding toward the door. "Leaves first. Thinks later." I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. The silence stretched, not uncomfortable exactly, just present. Somewhere in the back, a radio hummed softly. Outside, a car passed, tires hissing on wet pavement. I realized it had started raining while we were inside. She straightened a stack of receipts that didn't need straightening. Her hands were steady, but she avoided my eyes for a moment, like she'd already said more than she meant to. "You okay?" she asked, finally looking back at me. I nodded too fast. Yeah. She studied me then, not critically, not kindly either. Just honestly, like she was trying to see what was actually in front of her instead of what she expected to be there. "You're young," she said, almost to herself. Then she shook her head. "Sorry, that came out wrong." "It's fine," I said, though it wasn't clear what it was. Another pause. Longer this time. I became aware of the way she stood, grounded, shoulders relaxed, like she knew exactly where she belonged in that room. I'd never felt that way anywhere. "I should probably lock up soon," she said, glancing at the clock. "Storm's getting worse." I set the cup down. "Right. Oh yeah?" I moved toward the door, then stopped. Something about the quiet behind me felt heavier than the noise I was stepping back into. I turned, just for a second. She was watching me again. And even now, days later, it's that look I can't stop thinking about, like she'd almost said something and decided not to, and trusted me to feel it anyway. The shop was quieter than usual, late afternoon light slanting in through the dusty front window. Half the lights were off. My girlfriend was supposed to meet me there after work, but she texted last minute that she'd be late. Something about traffic. Something clipped. I showed up anyway, mostly out of habit. Her sister was behind the counter again, sleeves rolled up this time, hands darkened with grease as she leaned over an open radio casing. She didn't look up right away. I stood there longer than I should have, listening to the faint click of metal and the hum of the ceiling fan. "You can come in," she said finally. "I don't bite." I laughed, surprised she'd noticed me without looking. Just didn't want to interrupt. "You're not." She wiped her hands on a rag and stepped back. "Actually," she hesitated, the word hanging there. "Do you know anything about wiring?" "A little," I said. "Not professionally." "That's fine. Neither do I, apparently." She smiled at that, quick and tired. "Hand me that screwdriver." We worked side by side in silence for a while. Not awkward silence. Focused. I noticed how careful she was, how she checked the same connection twice like she didn't fully trust herself. A faint crease sat between her brows the whole time. Her hands caught my attention more than I expected. Strong, steady, but with small scars that told stories she didn't. I wondered how many years she'd been fixing other people's problems before anyone noticed she was tired. Your girlfriend used to love taking things apart, she said suddenly. When we were kids. Used to? I asked. She shrugged. She likes faster fixes now. I wasn't sure what to do with that, so I just nodded. She laughed softly, almost embarrassed by herself, and shook her head. Sorry, I talk when I shouldn't. You don't, I said. It's fine. She glanced at me then, like she was deciding whether to believe that. Her eyes were sharper up close than I remembered. Not hard, just alert, like she'd learned not to miss much. A phone buzzed on the counter. She ignored it. It buzzed again. She exhaled slowly, shoulders dropping a fraction. I should answer that. You don't have to, I said, immediately wishing I hadn't. Her mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I know. That's the problem. She stepped away to take the call, voice low, back turned. I didn't hear the words, just the cadence. The way she paused before responding. The way her free hand pressed briefly against the counter, fingers splayed, like she needed the support. When she came back, she looked older somehow. Or maybe just more honest. Thanks for helping, she said. You didn't have to stay. I wanted to, I said. Another pause. This one stretched. She nodded once, small. Yeah, she said quietly. I noticed. And when our hands brushed again, this time neither of us pulled away right away. By the third week, it had become normal to stay late. Not planned, just a gradual thing. A light left on. A tool not put away. Me waiting for my girlfriend who kept not showing up when she said she would. Her sister moving through the shop after hours with a slower pace, like the day finally loosened its grip on her. That night, rain came down hard enough to blur the windows. Not dramatic, just relentless. The kind that makes everything outside feel farther away than it is. She was closing out the register when the power flickered. Once, twice, then settled. Great, she muttered. That's new. I hovered near the doorway, unsure if I should offer help or disappear. Want me to hold the flashlight? She nodded without looking at me. I stood close enough that I could smell the soap on her hands. Something plain, almost citrus. The space between us felt smaller than before, like the room had quietly rearranged itself. Your girlfriend hates storms, she said, breaking the silence. Always has. I know. She'd call me when we were younger, even if she was across town. A pause. I'd stay on the line until it passed. She laughed under her breath, then stopped, like she hadn't meant to say that part out loud. Sorry, she said. Oversharing. It's okay, I said. I don't mind. She glanced at me, then back at the breaker panel. Her hand hesitated before flipping a switch, like she was weighing something unrelated. The lights held. Her phone rang then. The sound cut through the quiet, sharp. She checked the screen and stiffened. Didn't answer right away. You don't have to. I started. I know. She exhaled slow, then answered. What do you want? I looked away, focused on the rain streaking down the glass. I caught fragments. A man's voice, low and insistent. Her name said too often. She kept her responses short. Controlled. I told you, she said finally. This isn't the time. A beat. No, she said. Firmer now. I'm not doing this tonight. She ended the call and set the phone face down. Her shoulders stayed tense, like the conversation hadn't actually stopped. Sorry, she said again, automatically. You don't have to apologize, I said. To me, I mean. That made her look at me. Really look. There was something unguarded there, just for a second. Tired. Raw around the edges. I forget that sometimes, she said quietly. The rain picked up, drumming against the roof. The radio in the back clicked on unexpectedly, static-filled music bleeding into the room. Neither of us moved to turn it off. She stepped closer to hear me over it. Too close. Close enough that I could see a faint line at the corner of her mouth, like she smiled more than she let on. You should go, she said. Not firmly. Almost like a question. I know. Neither of us did. Her hand lifted, then stopped halfway, hovering near my arm, like she'd meant to brush past me, and forgot how. We stood there, the moment swelling into something neither of us named. If she'd closed that last inch, I don't know what I would have done. But her phone buzzed again, and she stepped back. The next time it came up, it wasn't during rain or late hours. That somehow made it worse. It was early, too early for the shop to feel lived in. The lights were on, but the air was still cool, the kind that clings to your skin before the day decides what it's going to be. My girlfriend had dropped me off and driven away without a kiss, without even looking back. She said she had errands. I didn't ask which ones. Her sister was in the back, sitting on a low stool with a clipboard resting on her knee. She looked up when she heard me, then paused, like she hadn't expected to see me alone. "You're here early," she said. "Didn't mean to be," I replied. We stood there, the words already slower than usual. No tools between us this time. No task to lean into. Just space. She gestured toward the counter. "Coffee." I nodded. She poured it without asking how I took it. When she handed me the cup, our fingers didn't touch. That felt intentional. We drank in silence. The clock ticked too loud. Somewhere outside, a truck idled, then pulled away. She was the one who spoke first. "This can't keep feeling like this," she said. I looked at her. "Like what?" She didn't answer right away. Her gaze dropped to the floor, then lifted again, steadier now. "Like I'm waiting for you to leave," she said. "And like I'm disappointed when you don't." That landed harder than anything else she could have said. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I didn't trust what might come out. "I'm not doing anything," I said finally. "I swear." "I know." She nodded once. "That's the problem." She set her cup down carefully, like it mattered not to spill. "I keep telling myself this is harmless, that it's just proximity, familiarity." A pause. But I'm not stupid. I leaned against the counter, suddenly aware of my heartbeat. Neither am I. That made her look at me again. Longer this time. Her eyes searched my face like she was checking for damage she might have caused without meaning to. "This isn't fair," she said quietly. "To you. Or to her." "No," I said. "It's not." Another stretch of silence. Thicker now. Charged with everything we weren't saying. She folded her arms, then let them drop. "Do you ever think about how close things get before they go wrong?" she asked. "Like there's this moment where you could still step back, and you don't realize it's the last clean moment until it's gone." I swallowed. "I think about it more than I should." Her breath hitched. "Just once. Enough that I noticed." "I don't want to be someone who crosses lines," she said. "I've done enough damage in my life thinking I deserved something." I stepped closer without meaning to. Stopped myself halfway. "You don't seem like someone who takes what isn't hers." She smiled then. Small. Sad. You'd be surprised. The room felt impossibly quiet. Like even the walls were listening. She met my eyes and didn't look away. "Tell me," she said softly, "if I ask you to stop coming by like this, will you?" I wanted to say yes. I really did. Instead, I said, "I don't know." Her face fell, not dramatically, just enough to break something open. "That's what I was afraid of," she whispered. I didn't come by for a few days after that. Not because I was strong. Because I was scared that if I saw her again, I'd answer her question the wrong way. When I finally did show up, it was unintentional. My girlfriend had left her jacket in the shop. She texted me a single line, "Can you grab it?" Like nothing fragile lived underneath it. It was late afternoon. The front door was unlocked, but the lights were dimmed. I almost turned around. She was in the back office, sorting through a box that looked like it had been opened and closed too many times. Papers stacked, then unstacked. When she saw me, she froze. Not startled, just caught. "I didn't think," she started, then stopped. "Hi." "Hi," I said. My voice sounded unfamiliar to me. I held up the jacket. "I'm just this." She nodded. "Yeah, thanks." Neither of us moved to bridge the space. The box sat between us on the desk, half its contents exposed. Old envelopes. A cracked picture frame. A cassette tape with handwriting faded almost to nothing. She followed my eyes and sighed, like she'd been deciding whether to put the lid back on before I arrived. "I was cleaning," she said. Then, after a beat, "That's a lie." I was avoiding. I didn't ask what. I just waited. She picked up the photo frame and turned it face down without looking at it. "I was married," she said. "A long time ago." I knew that already. In the abstract way you know things that don't belong to you. He died, she added. Not softly, not loudly, just plainly. The word sat there. Heavy, undeniable. I'm sorry, I said, and hated how insufficient it sounded. She nodded, eyes still on the desk. Everyone says that. It's fine. Then, quieter, he was young too. That caught. She noticed. I don't mean, she said quickly. I don't mean I know, I said. You don't have to explain. She reached into the box and pulled out an envelope. Not sealed. Worn thin. He wrote this the week before, she said. Didn't mail it. I found it later. She hesitated, then handed it to me. Not to read. Just to hold. I keep telling myself I don't think about him anymore, she said. That I've moved on. Built a life that doesn't orbit a ghost. A breath. Then you walk into the room, and I feel awake in a way I forgot how to be. I didn't trust myself to speak. My fingers tightened around the envelope. It felt lighter than it should have. I don't want you to be a replacement, she said. Or a reminder. That wouldn't be fair. I don't feel replaced, I said. I feel seen. That made her finally look at me. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. She smiled instead, small and fragile. That's the dangerous part, she said. That's what I missed. I set the envelope back in the box, carefully, like returning something sacred. When I turned to leave, she didn't stop me. But as I reached the door, she said, barely above a breath, I don't know how to lose you without losing myself too. We didn't plan the moment it finally stopped holding together. It happened on a night that felt almost ordinary. The shop was closed. The lights were mostly off, just the small lamp by the desk casting a circle that didn't quite reach the walls. My girlfriend had gone home early, said she had a headache. She didn't ask if I was coming with her. I didn't offer. Her sister was sitting on the floor, back against the filing cabinet, shoes kicked off like she'd given up on the day halfway through. I hovered near the door, unsure if I was welcome or just familiar. You can sit, she said, patting the floor beside her without looking up. I did. We didn't face each other. That mattered. It took the pressure off pretending. The hum of the old refrigerator filled the space between us. I've been thinking about what you said, she murmured. About feeling seen. I waited. I don't think I'm ready for anything, she went on. Not in the way people mean it. I don't have a clean version of myself to offer. I'm not clean either, I said. I'm just here. She nodded, like that was enough truth for one night. I don't want to hurt her, she said. Not accusing. Just stating gravity. Neither do I. Silence again. Thicker now, but steadier. Something settling instead of building. She leaned her head back against the cabinet and closed her eyes. I watched the rise and fall of her chest, the way her shoulders finally dropped like she'd been holding them up for years. Do you ever feel like you arrived too late to something? She asked. Or too early? All the time. She turned her head slightly toward me. Not fully. I don't want to pretend anymore, she said. But I don't want to rush into a mistake just because it feels honest. I don't need rushing, I said. I just don't want disappearing. That did it. She reached for my hand, slowly, like she was giving me time to pull away. Her fingers wrapped around mine, warm and certain, and neither of us said anything. The contact felt less like a spark and more like an anchor. We stayed like that. No kissing, no leaning into fantasy. Just two people sitting on a shop floor, holding something fragile without naming it. After a while, she rested her forehead against my shoulder. Not heavy, just enough to feel the weight of another person choosing to stay. We'll have to be careful, she said. I know. And it might not work. I know. She exhaled, a sound somewhere between relief and grief. Okay, she said. Then this is where we start. We sat there until the lamp flickered and shut off on its timer, plunging the room into darkness. Neither of us moved to turn it back on. I'm telling this from a little distance now. Not years, just enough time for the noise to settle and for the shape of it all to make sense. People always want to know what happened after. They ask it like there's a clean answer. Like stories move in straight lines. They don't. What changed first was me. I stopped thinking love was something you fell into by accident and climbed out of when it got complicated. I learned that wanting someone isn't the same as being ready, and that staying is sometimes braver than leaving, even when leaving looks like the responsible choice. She changed too, though she'd never frame it that way. She started taking up space again, laughing without checking who heard it, letting herself be tired without apologizing. She still guarded her heart, but not like a locked door, more like a window cracked open, on purpose. And the love itself, it didn't look like anything I'd been taught to expect. There were boundaries, awkward conversations, days we chose distance because it was kinder than closeness, nights we sat together without touching, just sharing the quiet like it was something earned. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. I won't pretend it didn't cost us something. It did. There were losses that didn't get wrapped up neatly. People who got hurt even though no one meant to hurt them. That part still sits heavy sometimes. Love doesn't erase consequences. It just asks you to face them awake. What surprised me most was how gentle it all became. The intensity didn't disappear, it softened, turned into checking in instead of checking out, into knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the work, into small moments that mattered more than grand gestures ever could. Like the way she still reaches for my hand in crowded rooms, not to claim me, just to make sure we're both there. Or the way I learned that love isn't about being chosen first, but being chosen consciously, again and again, even when it's inconvenient. If I could go back to that first day, the bell over the door, the cold coffee, the moment my girlfriend walked away, I wouldn't change it, even knowing how messy it would become. Because some connections don't announce themselves as love. They show up as recognition, as stillness, as someone seeing you when you weren't asking to be seen. And once that happens, you don't really get to unknow it. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?